My father secretly called my ex for months after we broke up. He then invited my ex to my graduation party without telling me. 6 months later, he showed up at my art exhibition and changed everything. I, 24M, recently graduated from college with a degree in fine arts, specializing in painting. It's been a long and challenging journey, not just academically, but personally as well. To understand why this graduation means so much to me, and why my dad's actions hurt so deeply, I need to provide some background. I grew up in a family where success was measured by financial achievements and social status. My dad, Robert, 52M, is a self-made millionaire who built his real estate empire from scratch. He's always been driven, ambitious, and expects nothing less from his children. My mom, Sarah, 50F, used to be a corporate lawyer but quit her job to support my dad's business and raise me and my younger sister, Emma, 19F. From a young age, it was clear that my interests didn't align with my dad's expectations. While he wanted me to play sports and take math tutoring, I was happiest with a sketch pad and pencils. My mom always encouraged my artistic pursuits, but my dad saw them as a distraction from what he considered real studies. Things came to a head when I was choosing my college major. I wanted to study art, but my dad insisted on business or law. We had countless arguments about it. I still remember the night I finally stood up to him. I was 18, and we were in his study. He had a stack of business school brochures on his desk. "Son," he said, "art is a hobby, not a career. You need to think about your future." I took a deep breath and replied, "Dad, art is my future. It's not just something I do for fun. It's who I am." He didn't speak to me for weeks after that. Eventually, we reached a compromise. I would double major in fine arts and business administration. It was tough, but I was determined to prove I could do both. Throughout college, I poured my heart into my art while grudgingly attending business classes. It was during this time that I met Lisa, 25F. We were both taking an elective course on art history, and we hit it off immediately. She was studying to become an art curator, and her passion for art matched mine. Lisa and I dated for 2 years, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. She was smart, beautiful, and shared my interests. My dad adored her, probably because she came from a wealthy family and had a practical career goal. He would often hint about marriage, even though we were still young. But as graduation approached, cracks started to appear in our relationship. Lisa wanted to settle down, talking about marriage and kids. I, on the other hand, wanted to focus on my art career. I had dreams of traveling, experiencing different cultures, and using those experiences in my work. We tried to make it work, but eventually, we realized we wanted different things. The breakup was amicable, and we decided to remain friends. My dad was devastated when he heard about our breakup. He couldn't understand why I would let go of someone he saw as perfect for me. This led to more arguments, with him questioning my decisions and me feeling like he didn't trust my judgment. Despite all this, I managed to complete both my majors. I excelled in my art classes and did decently in business. As graduation approached, I felt a mix of pride and relief. I had proven to myself and everyone else that I could balance my passion with practical skills. My parents decided to throw a big graduation party for me. Mom took charge of the planning, and I was excited about celebrating with friends and family. The party was set to be in our backyard, which Mom had beautifully decorated with fairy lights and colorful banners. The day of the party arrived, and I was feeling great. I put on my favorite blue shirt and a pair of khakis, wanting to look good but not too formal. As guests started arriving, I was busy greeting everyone and accepting congratulations. My college friends, some of my favorite professors, and relatives I hadn't seen in years were all there. I was in the middle of a conversation with my old art teacher when I saw her. Lisa walked in, looking as beautiful as ever in a summer dress, holding a wrapped gift. My heart skipped a beat, not out of longing, but out of shock and confusion. I hadn't invited her, and we hadn't spoken in months. Excusing myself from the conversation, I made my way through the crowd to find my dad. He was standing near the grill, chatting with some of his business associates. As I approached, I could hear him bragging about my double major. "Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice low, "can I talk to you for a minute?" He smiled broadly, putting an arm around my shoulders. "Sure, son. Everyone, this is the man of the hour." I forced a smile and led him away from the group. Once we were out of earshot, I asked, "Did you invite Lisa?" His smile grew even wider. "Surprise. I thought it would be nice to have her here. You two were always so good together." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own father had invited my ex-girlfriend to my graduation party without even asking me. I felt a mix of anger and betrayal washing over me. "How could you do this?" I hissed, trying not to cause a scene. "This is my celebration, Dad. You had no right to invite her without talking to me first." He looked genuinely surprised by my reaction. "Come on, son. I thought you'd be happy to see her. You two are still friends, right? Besides, she's always been such a positive influence on you. Maybe this is a chance for you two to reconnect." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like he hadn't listened to a word I'd said about why Lisa and I broke up. "Dad, Lisa and I want different things in life. That hasn't changed. Inviting her here without my knowledge is completely inappropriate." He frowned, his tone becoming defensive. I'm just looking out for your future, son. Lisa has a good head on her shoulders. She could help you see reason about this whole starving artist phase. That was the last straw. It's not a phase, Dad. This is my career, my passion. I thought you had finally understood that, but clearly, I was wrong. Our voices had risen, attracting attention from nearby guests. My mom must have noticed because she quickly made her way over to us. What's going on here? She asked, looking concerned. I turned to her, feeling a mix of anger and hurt. Did you know Dad invited Lisa? Mom's eyes widened in surprise. Lisa's here? I had no idea. She turned to Dad, her expression a mix of confusion and disappointment. Robert, why would you do that without discussing it with us? Dad threw up his hands in frustration. I was trying to help. I thought having Lisa here would remind him of what he's giving up with all this art nonsense. I couldn't take it anymore. This art nonsense is my life, Dad. My career. I'm not giving anything up by pursuing it. I'm following my dreams, and if you can't accept that, then that's your problem, not mine. With that, I walked away, leaving my parents to deal with the mess Dad had created. I spent the rest of the party avoiding both Lisa and my dad, making small talk with guests and trying to salvage what was left of my celebration. But the joy had been sucked out of the event. Every time I saw Lisa across the room, looking uncomfortable and out of place, I felt a pang of guilt mixed with anger. This wasn't fair to her either. Some of my relatives, unaware of the situation, kept asking why we broke up and if we were getting back together, which only made everything more awkward. By the end of the night, I was exhausted and emotionally drained. What should have been a happy celebration of my achievement had turned into a stressful and uncomfortable event. As the last guest left, I retreated to my room, ignoring my dad's attempts to talk to me. Now, lying on my bed, staring at the ceiling, I'm still trying to process everything that happened. I'm angry at my dad for overstepping his boundaries and trying to manipulate my life. I'm hurt that he still doesn't seem to respect my choices or my art. And I'm worried about how this will affect our already strained relationship. I don't know how to move forward from this. Part of me wants to confront my dad again, to make him understand how much he hurt me. Another part just wants to pack up and leave, to start my art career far away from his influence. I'm lost and could really use some advice. Am I overreacting, or was my dad completely out of line? How do I make him understand that my life is my own to live? Update 1. It's been about 2 weeks since the graduation party fiasco, and I wanted to update everyone on what's been happening. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice on my original post. It really helped me gain perspective on the situation. The day after the party, I decided to reach out to Lisa. I felt she deserved an apology for being put in such an awkward position. We met at a small cafe near my old college campus. It was strange seeing her again, sitting across from me with her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of chai latte, her favorite. I'm so sorry about what happened at the party, I started, but Lisa cut me off. It's not your fault, she said, her expression serious. But there's something you need to know. What she told me next left me speechless. Apparently, my dad had been in contact with her for months after our breakup. He would call her regularly, asking about her life and subtly hinting that she should try to get back together with me. Lisa explained that she felt uncomfortable with his behavior but didn't want to cause any drama. She mostly gave polite, non-committal responses. When my dad invited her to the graduation party, she initially declined. However, he was persistent, telling her that I really wanted her there but was too shy to ask her myself. I'm so sorry, Alex, Lisa said, reaching out to touch my hand. I should have checked with you directly. I thought I was doing what you wanted. I was horrified to learn about my dad's manipulative behavior. Not only had he invited my ex to my party without my consent, but he had also been actively trying to interfere in my love life for months. I felt violated and angry that he would go behind my back like this. After talking with Lisa, I knew I had to confront my dad again. I drove to my parents' house, my mind racing with all the things I wanted to say. I found him in his study, poring over some business documents. We need to talk, I said, closing the door behind me. My dad looked up, a smile spreading across his face. Alex. I was hoping you'd come by. Listen, about the party I cut him off. I know about the calls, Dad. I know you've been contacting Lisa for months. The smile fell from his face, replaced by a look of surprise and then. Was that guilt? Son, I can explain. Explain what? I demanded. Explain how you've been going behind my back, trying to manipulate my life? How you've been making Lisa uncomfortable for months. He stood up, coming around the desk. I was worried about you, Alex. Your future, my future is mine to decide, I shouted, my frustration boiling over. I'm an adult, Dad. I'm capable of making my own decisions about my career and my relationships. What happened next surprised me. Instead of getting defensive or angry, my dad seemed to deflate. He sank back into his chair, suddenly looking older and tired. You're right, he said softly. I crossed a line. Several lines. His admission took the wind out of my sails. I'd been prepared for an argument, not an apology. As the silence stretched between us, my dad began to speak again. When I was your age, my father controlled every aspect of my life, he said, his voice low. He decided my career, my friends, even tried to arrange my marriage. I swore I'd never be like him, but I guess I ended up making the same mistakes. I listened as my dad opened up about his own father, my grandfather, who had passed away before I was born. I'd always known their relationship was strained, but I'd never heard the full story before. My dad talked about the pressure he felt to live up to his father's expectations, the constant fear of disappointment. When I see you pursuing art, he continued, part of me is afraid you'll struggle like I did when I was starting out. I want to protect you from that, but I realize now I've been going about it all wrong. As he spoke, I felt my anger slowly giving way to understanding. It didn't excuse his actions, but it helped me see where he was coming from. Dad, I said, my voice softer now, I appreciate that you want to protect me. But you have to trust that you've raised me to make good decisions. Even if they're not the decisions you would make. He nodded, looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before, a mixture of pride and regret. You're right. I'm sorry, son. For everything. For the party, for contacting Lisa, for not supporting your dreams. I want to do better. We talked for hours after that, really talked, in a way we hadn't in years. We discussed my art, my plans for the future, and how we could rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were moments of tension, but it felt like a start. As I was leaving, my dad surprised me by asking to see some of my recent work. I hesitated for a moment before pulling out my phone and showing him photos of my latest paintings. To my surprise, he asked thoughtful questions about my techniques and inspirations. I left my parents' house feeling emotionally drained but cautiously optimistic. My mom, who had given us space to talk, hugged me tightly before I left. He's trying, she whispered. Give him a chance. In the days since, things have been different. My dad has been making an effort to show interest in my art without pushing his own agenda. He even suggested we visit a gallery together next weekend. As for Lisa, we've talked more and agreed that we need to set clear boundaries with my dad. She's been incredibly understanding throughout this whole ordeal, and I'm grateful for her friendship. I'm still processing everything that's happened. The hurt and anger haven't completely gone away, but they're mixed with a new understanding of my dad and hope for our future relationship. We have a long way to go, but for the first time in years, I feel like we might be moving in the right direction. I'm curious to hear from others who have dealt with controlling parents. How did you navigate rebuilding trust? Did your relationship improve over time? Any advice would be appreciated as I move forward. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I have some surprising news to share. I've been keeping my distance from my dad, only communicating when necessary. We've had a few stilted phone calls and one awkward family dinner, but nothing substantial. However, something unexpected happened last week that has changed the dynamics of our relationship once again. I had my first art exhibition at a local gallery. It wasn't a big event, but it was a significant milestone for me as an emerging artist. The gallery owner, Maria, had seen some of my work at a college showcase and offered me this opportunity. I'd been working tirelessly for months, creating new pieces and perfecting old ones for the show. I had invited my mom and sister to the opening night, but specifically asked them not to bring my dad. I wasn't ready to face him yet, especially at such an important moment in my career. I was worried he might make some dismissive comment about my art or try to steer the conversation towards real career options. The night of the opening arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. The gallery looked amazing, with my paintings displayed prominently on the white walls. As people started to arrive, I found myself explaining my work, discussing techniques, and even negotiating potential sales. I was in the middle of a conversation with a local art critic when I saw him. My dad walked into the gallery. My heart sank. I thought he had ignored my wishes again and shown up uninvited. But before I could confront him, I noticed something odd. He looked completely out of place, almost lost. As he approached me, I realized he was alone. My mom wasn't with him. He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, a mixture of pride, regret, and something else I couldn't quite place. Son, he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft, I know you didn't want me here. But I had to come. I needed to see this. I was about to ask him to leave when he continued, I've been doing a lot of thinking since our last conversation. I realized I've never really looked at your art before. I mean, really looked at it. I always saw it as a hobby, not a career. But standing here, seeing your work displayed like this, I was wrong. You have real talent. I was stunned. My dad, who had always dismissed my artistic pursuits, was standing in front of my paintings, genuinely admiring them. He went on to ask me about my techniques, the meanings behind certain pieces, and even inquired about pricing from the gallery owner. As the night went on, I found myself actually enjoying my dad's company. He seemed genuinely interested in understanding my world. At one point, he pulled me aside and said something I never thought I'd hear from him. I owe you an apology. A big one. I've been trying to shape your life into what I thought was best, without ever really seeing you for who you are. I was wrong about Lisa, about your career, about so many things. I'm sorry it took me this long to realize it. I was overwhelmed with emotion. It wasn't just his words, but the sincerity behind them. For the first time in years, I felt like my dad was really seeing me. We ended up talking for hours after the exhibition closed. He shared more stories about his own father, how the pressure to succeed in business had shaped his worldview, and how he had unintentionally fallen into the same pattern with me. He realized he had been projecting his own fears and insecurities onto me, and wanted to break that cycle. I'm still processing everything that happened. Part of me is cautiously optimistic, while another part is wary of getting my hopes up. My dad has suggested we start spending more time together, maybe even collaborating on a project that combines his business expertise with my artistic skills. I'm considering it, but I'm also setting clear boundaries this time. As for my art, the exhibition was a success. I sold several pieces, including one to my dad. He insisted on paying full price, saying he wanted to support my career properly. The gallery owner, Maria, was impressed with the turnout and has offered me another show in 6 months. I know we have a long way to go, but for the first time in years, I feel like there's hope for my relationship with my dad. We're both trying to understand each other better, and that's a start. I'm still navigating this new dynamic, trying to balance my independence with this newfound connection with my dad. It's not always easy, and there are moments when old tensions resurface. But we're both making an effort, and that means a lot. Has anyone else experienced a sudden change in a difficult parent? How did you navigate rebuilding trust? I'd appreciate any advice as I move forward. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this journey. A lot has changed, and I'm in a much better place now, both personally and professionally. My dad and I have been working on our relationship. It hasn't been easy, we've had some heated arguments and uncomfortable moments, but overall, it's been a positive experience. We're learning to communicate better and understand each other's perspectives. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when my dad attended an art therapy session with me. It was his idea, which surprised me. During the session, we created a collaborative piece together. The process of making art side by side opened up new channels of communication between us. It was like we finally found a common language. As for my art career, things have been going well. The success of my first exhibition led to more opportunities. I've had 2 more shows since then, and I'm starting to make a name for myself in the local art scene. Surprisingly, my dad has become one of my biggest supporters. He's attended every exhibition and even helped me network with some of his business contacts who are art enthusiasts. Lisa and I have maintained a friendly relationship, but we've both moved on romantically. She's dating someone new, and I'm happy for her. My dad has respected our boundaries and hasn't tried to interfere in our lives again. The most significant change, though, has been in my relationship with my dad. We're not perfect, and we still have disagreements, but there's a level of mutual respect that wasn't there before. He's learning to trust my decisions, and I'm learning to appreciate his perspective, even if I don't always agree with it. Last month, my dad surprised me by offering to help me set up my own studio. It was his way of showing that he fully supports my career choice now. It was a touching gesture that meant more to me than any verbal apology could. Looking back on everything that's happened since that graduation party, I'm amazed at how much has changed. It's been a difficult journey, but also a transformative one. I've learned a lot about forgiveness, communication, and the complexities of family relationships. To everyone who's followed my story and offered advice along the way, thank you. Your support has been invaluable. And to anyone dealing with similar family issues, don't give up hope. Change is possible, even in the most unlikely circumstances. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm facing it with a newfound confidence in myself and a stronger, healthier relationship with my dad. It's not the ending I expected when I wrote that first post, but I'm grateful for where this journey has led me.